So, you're thinking of moving to Spain? Well, don't. No, just joking. Moving to Spain has been an incredible experience so far, but at the same time, there were some difficulties. Just 2 days ago, I got my residency here. It's been almost 8 months. I can say firsthand that it wasn't as easy as I thought it was going to be. This video isn't a how-to, and it's definitely not legal advice. It's just what this year taught me and what I learned through the process of moving to Spain. I thought the hard part would be adjusting to a new culture, integrating, meeting new people, that kind of thing. But in my experience, the hardest parts have been the big things: housing, paperwork, planning for things to go wrong, because they inevitably will. My wife is an Italian citizen. I applied for residence as the family member of an EU citizen. This is the family reunification process. Your requirements are going to be specific to your case. We're here in Andalusia. Each region has its own rules. So keep that in mind going forward. Being prepared may seem less romantic than just taking the leap of faith into the unknown, which is kind of what we did. But being prepared will give you the freedom to actually live the life that you romantically envisioned before you came here to Spain. The first thing I learned is that you can't just treat moving abroad like one checklist. You go down the list and then you're done. Because even when you do everything right, there can be multiple interpretations of the same process. Different offices, different regions, different expectations. And sometimes they don't even work the same from one desk to another in the same office. Now my mindset is just to prepare for the strictest version of what could possibly be. I did this when I applied for my student visa when I went to move to Italy for 8 months. I gave them everything because I wanted there to be zero possibility of not getting the visa. When we came here to Spain, we thought that it was going to be easier than it was. We paid for it in time, energy, and frustration. Here's 2 quick little mini tips. Tip 1, you can't take setbacks personally. It won't help. One person tells you one thing, another person tells you another. We had that happen more than once. We got a letter notification and an email. We went to the immigration office. We asked what to do. We were told to wait 30 days, and if the letter didn't arrive, come back, and they would give us a physical copy of the letter. We came back on day 31, and they said our case had been archived because we didn't come to claim the letter within 30 days of the notification. This definitely caused some headaches, I can tell you that. Tip number 2, never assume something should be enough. Over-deliver. For my residency, we didn't just upload documents, we uploaded a letter explaining every document and how it met the requirements that they had asked for. Lesson number 2, bring as much as you possibly can to Spain. We came here directly from Italy, so it wasn't as easy for us to get some of the things that we tried to get around getting things from the US that they had asked us for. Didn't work. Lesson 3, knowing the Spanish language is not optional. If I could go back, I would definitely put a little bit more effort into learning to speak Spanish better before I got here. I can't speak very well, but I can understand most things. Luckily, my wife, as a native Spanish speaker, was able to help me with all of the process and the paperwork and going to the appointments and speaking on my behalf. There are people who do this as a service. I would highly recommend it if you don't speak Spanish because it's going to be difficult to communicate with government workers who don't speak that much English. I learned this firsthand in Italy too when I was getting the permesso di soggiorno, basically your temporary residence card there. It was very challenging in the beginning when I didn't speak Italian very well. Your life gets a lot easier when you can communicate and ask questions. If you're getting any value out of this, consider subscribing to this channel. I also have a few videos on language learning if you are interested in checking that out. Lesson 4. People are always thinking about the cost of living, everyday life things. Okay, what does it cost to eat out? What my grocery cost is going to be, the cost of rent and things like that. I think that these are all great things, but at the same time, you have to think about the big things when you get an apartment. First of all, when in the season is it? Because here, for example, in Malaga, when we came in May, it was very difficult to find an apartment that wasn't vacation rental priced. When it's the peak season in a beach town, you're going to pay maybe double of what you would pay normally for rent. So when are you coming? Where are you going? Are you going to be competing with tourists for apartments? Number 2, you may have to pay somebody to help you find an apartment, which we did. There's usually an agency fee, which is typically 1 month worth of rent. That's a cost that you'll never get back. And then maybe first month, possibly 2 months of deposit. In our case, because we came directly from Italy, my wife is now doing her master's program here in Spain. We didn't have Spanish job contracts. It can make it very difficult, of course, to get an apartment if you don't have a job contract or if you don't have regular income. I'm a freelancer. My income is inconsistent. Something that you may need to do in a situation like that is pay for all of your rental costs up front. We paid for 8 months up front. Residency setup expenses are also there, and you have to get private health insurance for at least 1 year. Until you're a resident, you don't have access to the public healthcare system. I'm not qualified to advise on taxes. Definitely contact a professional. I already have, and I plan on continuing to, because the whole tax situation, that's a whole nother thing to worry about. There's a lot of chicken and the egg scenarios. In order to get a job, you have to be a resident or have a work permit in Spain. In order to be a resident, you have to register at an address, so you have to have an apartment. You can't get a job because you don't have the residency, and you can't get an apartment without a job. So the system isn't really set up in a linear fashion. You just have to find workarounds to get you past each obstacle. Of course, my country, coming from the United States, I have heard horror stories about the difficulty of acquiring visas or get residency and path to citizenship. My wife had to go through all of those things. So every country has its difficulties, and I get it. I get it from all angles. I understand. Lesson 6, it feels like you should be able to figure it out by yourself, but unfortunately, that's just not the way that it works all the time. Sometimes the smartest move is just pay somebody right away to help you submit all your documents, to review everything that's necessary, somebody who knows the system. After trying to do everything ourselves at first, we realized that we needed help from someone. We contacted a lawyer, we had her advise us, we put in what she advised us to put in, and then the case got archived because it said that we didn't put everything we needed to put in because the lawyer apparently didn't know what she was talking about. So we had to start the process over again. The next time around, we went with a different one. And this time we knew that we just had to give them more than enough, give them letters explaining everything. In the end, hiring an advisor is a good idea, but also a good one is a good idea too. You have to look at what's the best use of your time. If you can pay somebody to help you, it protects your energy and time so that you can spend them on better things like your health, your relationships, your work, building income streams that actually make living here sustainable and enjoyable. And isn't that what we all want? Speaking of income streams, if you're thinking about coming here to Spain, look into getting an eSIM. The people over at Orbit Mobile reached out to me, making an offer for a 10% discount to my audience. This is actually something that I have recommended to friends and family before, because when you get somewhere, you want to be connected right away so that you're not spending a whole lot of money on roaming charges. You can access your Google Maps, talk to your Airbnb host, order an Uber. I've used Orbit Mobile here for the last week. We actually had the power go out in our building the other day. That meant our internet went out, but I had the little data plan. I connected to my phone via hotspot. We had a little candlelit movie session on the iPad. It worked for me. It may work for you. It's in the description. Use the code Ian10 down below. You get 10% off, and I get a little affiliate percentage for anyone who buys it through my link. Just because it's a right doesn't mean it's going to be easy. It is my right as a spouse of an EU citizen to join her here in the European Union. Each country has their own requirements when it comes to the family reunification process. In our case, we were asked for far more than I expected. At first, when we went to the immigration office, they told us that we only needed a certain amount in our bank account. Then later, they told us, no, we needed double that. And they also needed further documentation, which was 12 months of our bank statements from our US banks. You can't just print it out and bring it. Unfortunately, it was a whole process of having to get it in the format that was going to be accepted here. They had to be notarized and apostilled in the country of origin, where they legalize it for use outside of the country at the Secretary of State office. And then they needed to be translated into Spanish by a sworn translator. And they give you a 10-day window to provide all of this stuff after your initial application. In the end, that was a big, difficult situation that I didn't know was going to be a thing, but apparently it is. So that was one of the moments where I realized that you don't win by having rights. You win by being ready for whatever the process demands of you. When you're prepared, bureaucracy doesn't become your entire life. It becomes a background task, not a full-time job, leaving you room for the important things. You don't want to move abroad just to spend all your days refreshing government websites, although there will be some of that. You move abroad for the life that's on the other side of that, the sense of possibility, room for a little bit of romance, dreaming, calmer mornings, long walks at the beach, whatever your idea is of a life well lived. Being prepared protects that life. I hope that it helps you with your process, even if it is just to have some camaraderie in talking shit. Really, if you did get some value out of this video, I appreciate it if you consider subscribing here, and you may like some of my other videos. Watch this one here. And I'd like to know in the comments, what has been your experience? Has it been different than mine? Something frustrated you that I forgot to mention? That's it. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.